Natural hair is inherently dry. It's just a fact of life. Well, it's actually due to a genetic advancement, but we'll talk about that in a future video. Anyway, it's safe to say keeping natural hair moisturized is pretty much every natural's goal. It's the priority of a good hair regimen because without this foundation, it's almost impossible to achieve many other hair goals you may have. Humectants play an important role in maintaining moisture in natural hair. But like with many other things, there are pros and cons. So in this video, I'm going to clear up all the confusion about humectants and finally answer that question. Can you use humectants in dry weather? If you're the type of natural that inspects the ingredient list of products you buy in search for moisturizing ingredients, chances are high that those moisturizing ingredients you're looking for are humectants. So what are humectants? Humectants are water-loving substances that are able to attract and hold on to moisture. An easy way to visualize how humectants work is to picture a strand of hair with product applied. The product may be the humectant itself, a leave-in conditioner, or whatever. The water-loving humectant will attract the moisture or water molecules, pulling them from the surroundings to itself. This causes water molecules to come into contact with your hair as well. From here, the water molecules are able to enter the hair shaft and moisturize it. One thing to note is that humectants are always going to pull water to themselves from wherever the moisture is most concentrated. So if there's more moisture inside your hair strands than there is outside in the air around you, the humectant will pull moisture from your hair. This is one of the reasons why there's a confusion about whether humectants are good or bad. But not to worry, a proper moisturizing hair regimen is more than able to make up for this. Here's a list of some humectants, so the next time you're looking at an ingredient list, it's easier to spot them. Even castor oil has some humectant abilities. So now that we know what humectants are, how they work, and some of the more popular ones, let's take a look at why we need humectants in the first place. To understand why we need humectants, we need to understand the natural process that moisturizes our hair. The sebum your scalp makes naturally is amazing. It coats and penetrates your hair better than any oil. It softens your hair better than any emollient. And you guessed it right, it's also a great humectant. But in reality, the bends and twists along our hair strands makes it difficult for sebum to slide down the hair and create an even coat. This is why moisture retention is such a big part of a good natural hair care regimen and why we need humectants. Humectants help to fill in the gaps of uncoated areas of your hair. Moisture retention is longer lasting with humectants. They make our hair soft, flexible, and elastic, so it's bouncy and better able to stretch without breaking. The added moisture humectants bring also makes our curl pattern more defined. Here's a link to two really informative videos. One that takes a look at exactly what sebum is and what makes it so special. And the other of how I'm able to get full sebum coverage for my hair. Now that we've established how great humectants are, let's talk about how the humidity of our surroundings and our hair's porosity impacts how to use humectants correctly. Humidity is the measure of how much moisture or water is in the air. The more water in the air, the higher the humidity. That's why your hair feels soft and damp in humid weather. The less water in the air, the lower the humidity. That's why your hair, skin, and especially your lips get so dry in low humid weather. A place like Las Vegas has an average humidity of 31%. So it's dry and low humidity. And a place like Florida has an average humidity of 75%, making it high humidity. The porosity of your hair determines how sensitive it is to humidity. and how much humectants your hair needs or doesn't need. High porosity hair types have looser, frizzier cuticle layers, so it interacts with the water and the air more. It's more sensitive to humidity. So when the weather is low in humidity, it's hard to keep high porosity hair types from drying out too fast, without the assistance of a good moisturizing regimen that includes humectants. When the weather is high in humidity, it's virtually impossible for high porosity hair types to maintain a style like a twist out, because all the moisture in the air causes your hair to swell and take in too much moisture. Depending on how porous your hair is, using humectants in this scenario would be overkill and can result in moisture overload or moisture fatigue. Low porosity hair types have tighter, smoother cuticle layers, so it interacts with the water and the air less. It's still sensitive to changes in humidity, but not as much as high porosity hair types. So you can afford to use humectants in any scenario. Remember that porosity is a spectrum. Not all low porosities are the same, and not all high porosities are the same. No matter what porosity you are, humectants are not the be-all end-all. You need more than just a humectant to properly moisturize your hair. I'm going to be posting a video on what it truly means to moisturize your hair and keep it moisturized. I feel that video is going to be really helpful for a lot of you to get more control of and to simplify your hair regimen. Here's an easier way to see all of this. Let's use a scale from 1 to 3. 1 means to use a small amount of humectants less often, like once a week. 2 is in the middle, like 2 to 3 times a week. And 3 is the most. Of course, this is assuming you have a complete moisture regimen. The 2 main things to notice about this chart is that higher porosity hair types are more susceptible to moisture overload. So even though it needs humectants, it can't handle as much as low porosity hair types can. Also, no matter what your porosity is, if the weather is super humid, you don't need as much humectants. So, can you use humectants in dry, or better said, low humidity weather? Yup, you sure can. But the rumor that humectants are a no-no in dry weather comes from a real place. Humectants attract water from wherever it can. So if there's more water in your hair than there is in the air around you, it will pull water from your hair. But the weather would have to be unreasonably dry for that to happen, so it's highly unlikely. The truth is that in low humidity, your hair will dry out with or without humectants. Humectants aren't the cause of the drying out. That happens regardless. The way to protect your hair from the effects of extremely high or extremely low humidity is not to avoid humectants, but rather to have a proper moisturizing regimen that's right for the environment you're in and the porosity of your hair. That's a trial and error process. I posted some guidelines in the past on how to keep high porosity hair happy and how to keep low porosity hair happy. You can find their links below. Hair that is free of old product buildup, properly moisturized and sealed, will not be negatively affected by humectants and is less likely to be susceptible to humidity changes. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how I achieve that and how I keep my hair always moisturized. I hope this video helps you understand how humectants work and takes away your concerns about them. As always, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.